I would say the first photograph I did are still for me one of the best. And if you ask me, how did you make the decision to do so much detail, to use so extreme light, to be so personal, how did you get to do that? I don't know. I just felt this is what I want to do. Why, first of all, I use a lot of black and white. I think when I started to photograph space, I early on realized that the experience of space is so complex. In the history of photographing space, I often realized that the solution was to use wide angle, color, oversaturating, because you have this sense of frustration. And my position say, instead of saying everything, I step back. I'm going to say one thing, one experience. It's not everything, but if you feel one thing, I'm happy. So I think black and white is that step towards that abstraction that allowed you to imagine and reconstruct your own space. But recently, it's funny, I really fell in love with the color. It's something that before I felt my photograph black and white, I loved the black and white, it was only black and white, how to get this deeper black and white. And recently, since maybe the Suju garden, which are mostly in color, that I've done with all this decade and sometimes a little bit of blue, a little bit of red, I really kind of started to, fell in love with color and wanted to explore more. It didn't come immediately together, photography and architecture. It took some years because I was also stage photographer at the opera in Genève for 2 years. But then I met what is now my husband, Raoul Bunschoten, and he's an architect, and he studied with Daniel Libeskind and John Hedrick. And through them, I discovered a different way to look at architecture. It was late 80s, a lot of investigation and thinking about what do we need now, how do we think, how do we make more poetic narrative, do we need buildings, and starting almost from scratch, this idea of what is architecture. And it's a fantastic position to be a young photographer and working with people which are so radical. First of all, because the work is radical. So when you are with your camera, you're not having this bank of image telling you you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. But you have to invent. It's important I know the style of the architecture, what he's searching, what are the things which are important. Obviously, I'm not going to photograph Peter Zünthel the same way of Zaha had it. They come from different worlds. I mean, Zaha come from Iraq. She come from a country full of light, hot, complex. I'm just talking about some very basic thing. Zünthel come from a valley where you have sun that comes very specific hour in the day. Sun is the thing you want to capture and bring it to your building. Light is really, really important as a kind of jewelry that you protect, because maybe many hours you are in the shade and you have the winter. So sun, the light, is something that is extremely celebrated in the Zünthel building. Zaha, doesn't matter, A building is to protect and to make something maybe as powerful as a dune in a desert. But she doesn't have that feeling. These are some of my own intuition, but to know a person in that direction is important. Those photographs that I did so early on, maybe technically they are not perfect, but everything was there. And I think those early age, let's say middle, I was 25 or maybe something, a very precious time where we just lay down some base that all our life then we develop later on, and we make it maybe deeper and more extended. I always encourage young photographers to trust their feeling at that age. You don't know why, just say that's what it is.